Welcome to the OTech Talks podcast, where it's all about working on technologies. You will hear the latest tech information, and your host, Kashif Manzoor, brings together product overviews, how-tos, best practices, tips and tricks, and troubleshooting techniques.
Welcome to OpenTechTalks.tv. Today, guest speaker is Leo, the founder of Amsterdam Standard. Welcome, Leo, to the OpenTech Talks.
Thank you so much, Kashif, for having me here today. Really enjoy listening to your podcast, so I'm honored that I can be here today.
Thank you, Leo, for joining me today. And we will be having an open discussion about technology and about what you're doing. So if
Yeah, sure.
someone new to the show and then you just want to understand who is Leo and what he is doing at the moment. So maybe if you can give him some fruit
Sure.
to thought about it.
Sure. My name is Leo. I'm the founder, as you said, and CEO of Amsterdam Standard. I founded that company 22 years ago, and we are based in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. We help fast-growing startups and scale-ups to scale, and all of them are tech companies, all of them are SaaS companies. And we specifically help the founders because we see that a lot of founders have issues with scaling, especially from like a software point of view. They have difficulties building like a real good proper architecture. And the Amsterdam tech space is a very small ecosystem where there's a huge shortage of good developers. So my business has always been around team augmentation, actually. So we've been staffing teams here for the Dutch market for 13 years. The first years of my company, I was just an agency. And 13 years ago, I discovered a pot of gold. I always tell that, of great people that are based in Poland. And in Poland, there are way more and way better developers than you can find here in the Netherlands. So I started connecting them, started opening an office there, started connecting the real great people that I can find over there with the Dutch companies. And that's basically what I've been doing since then. Yeah.
Okay. So you said 22 years back you started this.
Yeah. I'm 43 years today. I started this company as a graduate student. Actually, my last year, I was studying hotel management, but I always had a huge passion for building websites for the internet. So I think I didn't actually have a chance to study something different because I always say that I'm not smart enough to be a developer. I'm not creative enough to be a designer. So back then, for me, there was no other choice than going for some general management education. But I was lucky enough to convince my teachers that at least my final internship, that you always finish that education with an internship, and usually people go to some exotic destinations, some amazing islands where they work in a hotel. But I convinced my teachers that it was better for me to build the first e-commerce website of a travel organization in the Netherlands. It was like 2002, 2003. So e-commerce was still like rather new here, and not many of those organizations actually had an e-commerce portal where you can actually book the travel. So that was my first project. It was easy actually. I had like so much time left during that 6 months that in the spare time I could just find clients actually. So it wasn't a big risk for me to start my company. When I graduated, I already had like 4, 5, 6 clients, and it was way easier to make money as a website developer back then than having to apply for a job in a hotel chain somewhere. That was more risky for me. So it was an easy start. Yeah. So indeed, already 22 years ago. Yeah.
All right. Great to know that. Now, maybe for the listener and for to just maybe get more clarity, you said it's a tech space in Amsterdam,
Yeah.
and then you categorize into like helping founders, startups in one area, and then another area you described it as a talent pool where you provide it.
Yeah,
So maybe we will go one by one into both of the areas. So if you can
sure.
someone walk through that, if either someone who's maybe thinking to build a product or MVP,
Mhm.
someone, and then how you support them,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah. All right, sure. Yeah. The people that we help, I always tell them that we bring them from B to C. They already got from A to B. So they made a little
okay.
start.
Mm-hmm.
They have something. Usually they have knowledge from like their previous job or the previous company that they worked for. And then they start
Mm-hmm.
something. And they have a little bit of traction. Usually they have like a team of, let's say, 3 to 4 people. There's always
Mm-hmm.
one hacker on board who built the first MVP, and there's a
Right.
couple of guys trying to sell it and doing some customer support and service. And
Mm-hmm.
then they reach, hopefully, they reach the moment that they can actually scale. But then everything,
Mm-hmm.
already starts to break, and this is like the moment where you see that they need like real support.
Mm-hmm.
And that is actually where they start reaching out to companies.
Okay.
And then you need to prepare because, like most MVPs can easily handle like few clients. And you see that the typical SaaS founder is adding like so much custom work to their first MVP because, custom
Right.
work is needed to onboard new clients. It's like
Right.
they try to get this product market fit and they
Mm-hmm.
just listen to the market. If this client wants to become a client, but he demands this feature, they will add it. And at some point, this whole application just exploded. And then you need to
True.
structure it and you need to make it like real SaaS. And that
Mm-hmm.
is where we come in. That is, where we tell them, how can they restructure it? How can they already fix the technical debt that they have?
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, still support the clients, and we can just show them, what they should focus on right now. So, what is important right now to do, and that is what we do. Yeah, and then in this eco space, in the Netherlands, there are like so many great initiatives, So it's I think one of the three biggest tech hubs in Europe right now. So we see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of activity in London, of course. We see a lot of activity in Berlin,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, Amsterdam is also really booming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's also a place where a lot of US companies
Mm-hmm.
uh, located their European headquarters. So there are like so many big companies, unicorns there. And the spin-off
Mm-hmm.
of those companies are usually like, people who have some experience, who earned a little bit of money, and now start their own company. So it's really vibrant. Yeah, I can say that.
And while helping them, how you charge them for some equity partnerships or some fees, or generally not very
Yeah,
detailed, but general as a
yeah,
concept wise.
yeah, yeah. So that's a nice question, actually. When we started the company, the first thing that I realized after having an agency for like 2 years, like this is boring. How can I ever be when you're young and you're naive,
Mm,
and of course you're ambitious, so you want to get rich before you're 25. So I thought, yeah,
mhm.
it's a great idea to take a stake everywhere. This is
Right.
the typical mistake, I guess, that a lot of agency owners make. Just take stakes. Um,
Mhm,
and we did that. I mean, when we started doing that, we also actually had a strategy. So we said
mhm,
we need to do this at least 10 times because that is what we learned, from like the pro VCs. They build a
mhm.
portfolio, they do it 10 times. One will be a unicorn. Eight will probably go bankrupt or be sold for what they costed you. And then there's like
Right.
two average businesses. So we did
Mhm,
that, and it was, of course, a great experience. I mean, that just, I mean, I really believe that for me, the only way that I learn is by failing. And if
mhm,
you do this like so many times, then you fail a lot, and then you just learn a lot from all the
mhm,
people that you work with and from all the products that you try to build. So yeah,
mhm,
that was a great thing to do, and I'm still doing that actually, but not as
mhm,
often as we did back then. So,
mhm,
so usually, indeed, your question was like, how do we do that? How do we charge them?
mhm.
Usually, it was like a combination. So, if there was like a
Okay.
really interesting client coming to us,
Mhm,
we asked for a stake. I mean, and as
Mm,
an agency owner, you're offered a stake. I would say, let's say, in
mm,
70% of the cases that the clients come to
mm,
you, because they always
mm.
think that if the owner of the agency takes a stake, they will get like better service.
Right.
But my
Mm-hmm.
experience is actually the opposite. My experience is that you shouldn't do it. That you should never take a stake with your hours, because it really gets vague inside your company. And as an agency owner, you're of course still responsible for just paying the salaries. So
Mm-hmm.
if there is like a large client coming who wants to pay more for like a commercial project, you will always give
Mm-hmm.
him the priority. So
Mm-hmm.
my experience was that it was really hard to manage such projects within the
Mm-hmm.
same company. So if you really
Mm-hmm.
structure it in like a separate fund next to it, or like you make some incubator company, then I guess it
Mm-hmm.
can. I know it works well. But if you do that,
Mm-hmm.
with the same money that you are using to run your agency, then you sometimes get like in very difficult squeezes where you just make the wrong decisions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, I mean, we've done this at least 22 times. We took like 22 times a stake in such companies, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I think the theory works because two or three of them really got big, and they are
Okay.
worth all the blood, sweat, and tears. But
Mm-hmm.
it also means that you failed at least like 15, 16 times, that you got disappointed, that you had
Mm-hmm.
like absolutely zero focus. And I truly believe that people who can have the real focus, they will be the most successful. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was at least for us, it was a great experience. And it's
Mm-hmm.
also the core of Amsterdam Standard, because we help the same people that we were, and we already
Mm-hmm.
failed so many times, that at least that my current clients, that I can prevent them from making the super dumb mistakes and the obvious ones that we also made. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so this way of working has actually brought us a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now you mentioned 22 SaaS companies. You were part of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we summarize those 22 companies into some 3 points, three learnings, if
Hmm.
someone, this is question for someone, if he is maybe starting his startup or doing his project,
Yeah.
something which
Yeah. Sure.
he was wishing to get into it. So what are maybe three top, you can give them some hints or tips?
Yeah. Well, I can give you way more, but three is easy. So my biggest
Feel
lesson.
free to go on. Just
No, no,
I
I
was
will
just
do
trying to
three.
make it easy.
Yeah, yeah. No, but three. My biggest lesson was, of course, the people that you work with. So it's really hard to find people who are on the same page as you are and who have the same intentions. So yeah, you have to be, I mean, what you are going to start with the founder or with your first, let's say,
Mhm,
5 6 employees, is
mhm,
basically like a marriage. So you have to
mhm,
be really sure, and you are tight on resources in the beginning. So you
mhm,
cannot, if like a mishire is going to be very expensive for you. So make
mhm,
sure that you are going to work with the right people. That is just super important.
mhm,
um, so don't trust the first person that you see. Make sure that everybody has a real stake in the company, so that everyone also
mhm,
like puts their money, so that it actually
mhm,
hurts. When they leave,
mhm, mhm,
that they have focus. I really don't believe in people who do things as a side business. I mean, there's also
mhm,
like a lot of lifestyle entrepreneurs or people who always dreamt to be an entrepreneur, and then they think, oh, my golden ticket is this startup, so I will commit
mhm,
some of my time or my network to this company. But that is usually not enough. I mean, if you have like
mhm,
a real job, then they will be distracted the next day,
mhm,
or
mhm,
people who bring their network. I mean, a network is so intangible. Like, how can you actually measure if that actually works for your
right.
company? So that is extremely hard. And yeah, I mean,
Mhm,
for me, co-founders have always been the biggest challenge. I've had
mhm,
so many, and after all, I can say that
mhm,
I think I had around 40 co-founders maybe, and I thought that I knew something about people, but I
mhm,
can really say
mhm,
that after all that experience, maybe only 5 of them actually kept amazing me every day and didn't disappoint me,
mhm,
or were actually,
mhm,
like real hard workers who went
mhm,
all the way and way beyond my expectations. So,
Mhm.
making the right decision, for
Mhm.
with good people is like this can just make your company, skyrocket, or it will just go to hell. Because if you end
Right.
up, especially in an early stage, in a conflict with your co-founders, then you will also lose all the fun. And you are
Mhm.
immediately, like spending
Mhm.
resources on lawyers or on like, on the
Right.
wrong thing, whilst you should have like your full focus and your full energy on just building that. So that is people. The
Right.
next one for sure is validation. I mean,
Mm.
still we are building projects for a lot of companies where I doubt that they actually did like proper validation in the market. There's a lot
Mhm.
of dreams being built.
All
So
right.
somebody had something in mind and they really want to, put that in a project, in a product. Mostly people
Mhm.
who had a huge frustration, for example, and they really want to,
Mhm.
tackle that
Mhm.
frustration, and they think that the whole world is actually waiting for
Wait
that
for this.
solution. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, but then when they finally go to market and they didn't do a proper user research and market research, you see that a lot of money is actually being wasted on software and projects that are not being used. And I
Mhm.
made that mistake myself like so many times. I was so blinded by
Mhm.
an amazing idea or a
Mhm.
vibe that you had with a couple people who all thought that
Mhm.
this is going to be the next Facebook. And then you work on it for like a year and you go to market and you actually forgot to talk to real users, and then nobody
Mhm.
wants it. So yeah, that is
Mhm.
and I still see that. I mean, there are like thousands of good books written about like
True.
how to do these things, yeah, and still people don't take it serious. They still
Mm.
like think that this is all something where you need to invent the wheel yourself, whilst I
Mm.
mean the theory is already out there for ages, right? And
Right.
yeah, so and that is, yeah, for sure something that I still try to explain everyone. Like if somebody comes to me with a great idea, I can be really happy for him that he's like so enthusiastic about
Mm.
his, like future
Mm.
business. But I will always challenge them. Like, how many people confirm to you that this is actually a great idea? And
Mm.
especially nowadays, if it's not there yet, why is it not there yet? What is the
Mm.
reason for that? I mean,
Mm.
15 years ago when we built SaaS platforms, I knew quite sure that every project that we started was the first one in its space, right? But
Mm.
now there's like a competition for everything. So you have to be really sure that you're not building something that actually nobody wants to have. And if somebody
Mm.
really, if the market really confirms to you that there is a market for it, then still
Mhm.
do like your proper user research, because then it's about
Mm.
the details, and then you need to
Mhm.
make sure that your user experience is just awesome.
Mm.
So yeah, we are always pushing our clients and our future clients. Come on, go to the market. Please come back to us later if you did your
Mm.
validation, because nothing is actually worse for us and also for our developers to build
Mhm.
something that you see dying, like that the
Mm.
software project is dying within a year.
Mm.
That's just
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
just a waste. Yeah, and I mean, another thing that I think that people really have to be precautious about is when they're building something that they do the financing well of the company. I see a lot
Mm.
of people going all in with the budget that they raised or with their own resources, when they're starting a
Mhm.
company. And then they
Mhm.
pretty much spend everything on tech. And I mean, it's maybe weird that I say that because, we usually benefit from that because,
Right.
they spend that money on us, on our developers, on our designers.
Mm.
But I think it's kind of wrong. I mean, with a great product itself, you're not going to conquer the world. So you
Mm.
really need to spend a lot of money on your service, on your marketing. Make sure that you actually start selling. Because if you have
Mm.
your MVP and it's great, but you do not have the resources to market it,
Market.
nobody will find it. And there, yeah,
Mhm.
that's just a thing. And I really see a lot of companies spending everything, every penny that
Mm.
they have on making the best product. But I always tell
Mm.
them, just don't spend more than 30 or
Mhm.
40% on the product to make sure that you get that product market fit and that the people really start buying this from you. And then
Mhm.
start scaling, then look for more resources that you actually invest in the product. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's also, I mean, that's also the mistake that I made myself so many times, that we spent everything on just
On the
building
tech
the perfect product, and
building.
then we wanted, yeah, and then we
All
wanted
right.
to build the organization, and there was no resource, and nobody actually, wanted to invest in us anymore because we had no traction. The
Right.
product is good, but every investor is just looking for traction. Just show how many people are begging for this, and how many times you already
Sure.
sold it this month. Yeah. So
Now, thank you so much for sharing three tips. Now, one follow-up question for one of the point, which was second validation and going back to user.
yeah, yeah,
So maybe if you can explain, if you can give us some hint to that how they should go to the user validate it. I
yeah,
mean, if you can elaborate it more, what some steps they can do, and
yeah.
then I
Sure.
think we will go back to your another area of resources and other work.
Sure. Yeah. Well, in my opinion, everything is allowed to do validation. So first
Mhm.
of all, if you have a plan or a concept, just go to your inner circle, write it
Mhm.
down, make sure that you have something that you can,
Mhm.
iterate on.
Mhm.
So if you pitch it, for example, to your husband or to your wife or to
Mhm.
your inner circle or to your best
Mhm.
friend, make sure that you have a pitch that they can
Mhm.
understand, and make sure that's
Mhm.
like a simple pitch. I mean, if it takes you like longer than 1 minute to explain it, then it's probably also not a great idea. So do that first. And then if
Mhm.
you get like some, like some positive reactions, make sure that you can go to the real market. So find
Mhm.
a potential, define first a persona. So make some kind of, like potential buyer, and actually
Mhm.
just call them, or, go
Mhm.
out there on the street and have, like just an interview prepared, and just start asking people. Another thing that
Mhm.
I advise people to do is just make a very simple landing page.
Mhm.
Present your plan, present your idea on the landing page, and
Mhm.
I don't know, put a buy button there that doesn't work, or put a sign
Yeah.
up for my newsletter, or be the first one to be announced when this product goes live,
Mhm.
and subscribe here. And then just
Mhm.
spend €100 on Google Ads, for example, and see if
Mhm.
actually people search for this. So if
Mhm.
if people search for it, that there is a demand. And then,
Mhm.
maybe later you can, of course, tweak your pitch so that they will actually sign up. But just look at the basics. If nobody's searching for it, it will be hard to market it later. Of course, there are
Mhm.
products where you need to make the market yourself, but these are like, for most of the problems out there, you just can find it even like in Google Trends. Are people actually
Mhm.
searching for this? And
Mhm.
if they are searching for it, what competitors are already like showing there? And
Mhm.
will your product be different enough from what is already there? Because otherwise, it also doesn't make sense. You probably need a lot of marketing money to to
Mhm.
market this product.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that is basically, go out there. So if you have that persona, at least have like 20 real
Mhm.
conversations. Don't
Mhm.
be disappointed if the first three
Mhm.
people say no, because
Mhm.
maybe you're
Mhm.
just talking to the wrong personas, or maybe you
Right.
need to like change your buyer
Mhm.
persona here.
Mhm.
But make sure that you at least do like a whole bunch of interviews, and then go back to like to the drawing board, because maybe you
Mhm.
learned something and now you can tweak it and you start all over again. So you pitch it
Mhm.
again to your inner circle, and again
Mhm.
go out there. That is, let's say, pretty cheap to do, because you don't
Mhm.
actually need anything. You can just
And
do that with but if you
mhm.
actually want to scale your validation, what you
Mhm.
can do is you can just make a prototype, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you can
Mhm.
just make I mean,
Mhm.
there's so many tools out there, and I think even
Right.
ChatGPT can make like free prototypes
Mhm.
for you today.
Right.
So
Mhm.
you don't need to be like an amazing Figma designer
Mhm.
or anything. There are
Mhm.
just AI tools that can make a prototype for you. And
Mhm.
then there are like a lot of tools out there on the internet where you can just buy a test audience, and where you can just ask a few questions. So you
Ah,
will just
okay.
you just
Mhm.
select like
Mhm.
what type of persona do you have, and you present them
Mhm.
the test. Can be like
Mhm.
50 or 100. And the
Right.
cool thing about such test panels is that you
Mhm.
have like immediate response, because those
Mhm.
panels, they just push it, you pay, and you get within like few hours, you get like a whole lot of quantitative data back. And you can
Mhm.
even get like eye tracking, how are they using this
Mhm.
prototype, what are they
Mhm.
reacting on, etc.
Mhm.
So also that, I mean, you don't need like a professional
mm,
agency to do such market research for you. You can just do it yourself. So let's say all that validation can be done with a budget lower than 1,000 euro for sure.
mm,
Uh,
mm.
and that is really like so simple to do. I mean, if you just Google it for it, just do it. But yeah, like I said, this is apparently quite hard for people to do
Right.
because I also, after all those years, believe that people don't want to hear any
Hear
negative
them.
voices,
Right.
right? They just want to live the dream, and everyone who says it's not awesome, it's something that they want
Mm,
to get out of their
mm.
space. So
True.
technically, it's simple, but apparently, there is a mind fuck here. I guess that
Right.
people are not really willing to hear such
True.
voices in the early stage of their company, which is
True.
also good, probably because
Mm,
like the real brilliant ideas, they will only hear negative feedback in the beginning, because
mhm,
people probably just don't understand it or they don't see that there
mhm,
will be a market for that. There are,
mm,
of course, some
mhm.
great examples out there of huge
True.
companies where people thought this will never work, but
Mm,
once they
well,
were there, you couldn't go without them anymore. So yeah,
okay.
so that's basically what we always advise to do. And then, of course, once you are actually building your MVP, we are always just thinking these circles, these iterations. So always do your research. If you've done your
Mhm,
research, you make a prototype, you go
mm,
back
go.
to your power users and to the
Mhm,
market. Then you put it
mhm,
live and you just look at the data, how it's being used,
mm,
and just keep doing that. And this is also like such a standard practice, but I can assure you that like even half of my current clients are not doing this because they're just
mm.
so focused on releasing
So,
new functionality all the time, because that
mhm.
apparently is like still the way to go, for most companies. Just add functionalities and at some point it will work. And that is something
True.
that's like really hard to change.
Right. Right. Got it. Thank you, Leo, for running through very wonderful tips and insights. Now, you this was one part of the business I think that you're doing, and then you were talking. You mentioned another area where you augment the resources and then you provide the services. So if
Yeah.
you can give
Yeah.
us some.
Yeah, sure. So indeed it's called team augmentation or nearshoring.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
when I started this, I outsourced many projects myself all over the world. I
mhm,
uh,
mhm,
I just needed more resources and I couldn't find them anymore in Amsterdam.
mhm,
So that was like
mhm,
13 years ago. And since I did like all these investments in all these
mhm,
companies, I just
mhm,
grew my own resource problem a lot. So at some points I was
mhm,
just short on like 15 to 20
mhm,
developers, and it was
mhm,
impossible to find them in Amsterdam.
mhm, mhm,
And I had like very negative experiences with the companies where I outsourced them. I outsourced
mhm,
them in many countries in the world, and it never worked
mhm,
out for me. So first I
mhm,
thought that those guys were stupid, but then I realized no, it's me. It's me who just doesn't know how to do this remotely, and it's
mhm,
really hard to build proper software remotely, uh, because there is this physical distance, and you need to
mhm,
do something
mhm,
about it. Because I
mhm,
really believe that people need to understand each other and the company very
mhm,
well to make
mhm.
the right micro decisions. Like every
Right.
line of code that they write, they need to
Mhm,
just understand what this founder wants, what kind of
mhm,
company is that, what are the dynamics, what are they worrying about, and
mhm,
yeah, so it's really hard to do that. So then I found, like I said, like some really great people in Poland, started working with them, and the difference is actually that we met each other. So I went
mhm,
there. It's just like an hour and a half flight from Amsterdam, and like
mhm,
a month or 2 months later, I invited them, and I really
mhm,
felt that everything that we were building there, this
mhm,
connection and like this friendship,
mhm,
that actually made the difference. And the fact
mhm,
that we were able to sit together for much longer, for like a couple
mhm,
days, yeah, made a huge difference. And that became our
mhm,
concept. So
mhm, mhm,
still, I tell all my clients, if I could find these people in the Netherlands, then it would be more, yeah, more efficient for everyone if they
mhm,
could work from here. But it's not possible. So the second
mhm,
best option is that the people from Poland, work for us,
mhm,
and that we go there, that we visit them, that we build these
mhm,
relations, and that we make
mhm,
teams for really the long term. So on
Mhm.
average, our guys are working on a client project for something like 3 to 4 years. So
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
really long. So we invest a lot of time in the
Mhm.
connection between the two. So when a
Mhm.
client starts with us, we send them to the Netherlands, the team, and they
Mhm.
sit at the client's office for
Mhm.
a long time, and they just start connecting. They
Right.
start, absorbing all the information.
Mhm.
They go out for a dinner and a beer. They have a laugh,
True.
and then they go back and
Yeah.
they have like so
Right.
much more context, and that makes the
True.
difference. So that's what that's what we discovered ourselves, that by doing that, it can work. But what for us
Mhm.
is like extremely important is that the client is the owner of the process. So we only
Mhm.
augment teams. So we usually
Mhm.
don't work for clients who do not have technical leadership or
Mhm.
who do not have a product owner, because we really
Mhm.
think that those two roles should be very close to the client, preferably working from the office and very close to the founding team.
Mhm.
Those people just need to make like so many decisions every day that they have to be there. And then usually
Right.
there's like a CTO or a tech lead. And if that is in place at the client, then we know that around that, we can make a team with all the specialists that they cannot find, and we can scale it up and down whenever they want. And that works. And so that's why we really call it augmentation or extension. And that is the way that we can actually make like really good software. So
Okay.
from my
Great.
days, when I still had the regular agency and we were just taking
Mhm.
over full ownership of projects, I
Mhm.
experienced like so many times that, when you deliver something, that the client was like, yeah, this was like 90% of what I meant. But, and you actually just run into issues together because you thought you did a great job, but, the client actually wanted something different. And with this model, that just doesn't happen.
Okay.
And yeah,
Got it.
so
Okay, maybe a couple of questions before we conclude our session. One is, as you are into resources and you must be interviewing, hiring, getting them on board. So
yeah,
maybe for listeners, what are the key characteristics you see in the during the hiring process that
yeah.
can give some inputs or hints for some person so they can feel one ready for that?
Yeah, some hiring tips, right? Well, obviously there is the money component, and I can
Mhm.
tell you that money is not the most important thing out there.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
I do feel that, of course, most of the developers in Europe, in Central Europe and West Europe, Eastern Europe, it's like very transparent. I mean, the market pretty much in most of
Mhm.
the countries it grew to like same
Mhm.
levels.
Mhm.
So you just have to pay what people are worth. There's like no way that you can underpay people. We
Mhm.
never did that, and right now, it's just
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
salary is transparent actually. So
Mhm.
that is not
Mhm.
the thing. That is not where you can actually differentiate from other companies. Of
Mhm.
course, there are some
Mhm.
companies who are overpaying, and that is, let's
Mhm.
say, interesting for
Mhm.
some people who are there
Mhm.
for, let's say,
Mhm.
just to earn the most they
Mhm.
can, which is
Mhm.
something that I also respect. That's your
Mhm.
choice.
Mhm.
But the situation is actually that most of the people, they are just looking for a very healthy development culture. So a
Mhm.
culture where there is attention for quality, where there is
Mhm.
attention for, like fixing legacy, for
Mhm.
rewriting code, for enough time to add tests to the code, like
Mhm.
all the things that seem to
Mhm.
be like a
Mhm.
luxury often, but they
Mhm.
are not.
Mhm.
They're really
Right.
essential for building like a sustainable product, actually.
Mhm.
So that
Mhm.
is really what we see. If you have like a client who understands that, who's not just
Mhm.
rushing every feature,
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
you can really see that the people stay there for a very long time and that they are happy. And of course, they need to
Mhm.
have some growth opportunities within the project. It is nice that if you work in like a project for a year or 2 year, that your
Mhm.
role changes a bit, that you get more responsibility,
Mhm.
that you give your team like a lot of freedom, that you
Mhm.
really let them define the solutions. You don't need
Mhm.
to, detail everything. You just come up with the problem, you give it to the team and let them fix it. And if you do that, then you see like such a huge empowerment that they actually love, that they get so
Mhm.
motivated, that they just deliver way more than you could ever expect. And
Right.
if you have such a culture, then we really
Mm.
see it working for a long time. And we
Okay.
have guys working with us for like already 10
Mm.
years right now. They all get like a
Mm-hmm.
nice watch when they reach this anniversary. And it's because of that. I mean, that's
Right.
also my role, like finding
Right.
clients who have a great product and who
Mm-hmm.
have mostly a good development culture. And
Got it. Got
that's
it.
it. And it's quite
So,
rare, I have to say. Like,
mhm,
not many companies understand that, and it's also like a little bit of contrast with the early days of a startup, because then they're just
mhm,
rushing, they're building features, they're tight on
mhm,
resources, so it's like hard to make time for that. But
mhm.
eventually, you have to go there. So let's say after your
Got it.
first year or your second year, you need to make sure that you have time available for that, and then people will be
Okay.
really happy. Yeah.
Got it. So, how do you see Amsterdam tech in next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, yeah. Also a good question, because I actually changed my mind on that a year ago.
Hmm.
As I told you, already running this company for over 20 years, and
Right.
I feel that we have a great company.
Hmm.
We have great people there. We are around 135 colleagues at the moment. We have great clients, but
Hmm.
I didn't feel that we have like a real purpose. So we
Hmm.
are technically making our most of the employees very happy. And like I said, they stay
Hmm.
there for a long time. So I guess we are a good employer, and that's
Hmm.
nice already. And we have people who really see it as a
Hmm.
family. And of course, we have
Hmm.
happy clients, and the clients
Hmm.
are also now, basically, what we are doing is we're making the clients grow. We're making
Hmm.
founders rich or poor
Hmm.
when they fail, but that's the business risk. But
Right.
what is there? I mean, what is our real purpose to the world?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and I do worry a lot about the state of this world, and about the climate change and everything.
Hmm.
And I'm a father of two kids, so I think you also
Hmm.
have like a responsibility, and I think also
Sure.
our company can do a little bit more. So
Hmm.
I decided last year actually that our company will make a big shift, and that we will
Hmm.
only start focusing and working in 2 years from now for
Hmm.
tech companies who are within climate tech, clean tech,
Hmm.
renewable
Hmm.
energy, or building sustainability tools, like for
Hmm.
example, carbon
Sure.
footprint calculators and stuff like that.
Got it. Hmm.
Because I feel
Hmm.
that we can also make an impact on this world by
Impact.
supporting clients who do, you know, will help the world forward, and
Hmm.
that will be our specialization, and that will
Hmm.
hopefully also bring purpose for our people, who then can also feel that they
Hmm.
have actually contributed something, with their
Hmm.
brains, and that they
Hmm.
turn that into good software that can actually help this world. And that is my new mission. So my plan is to go all in with that. So
Sure.
we're already focusing. Bless you. Already
Thank you.
focusing on finding clients that are working within these domains. And of course, as a company, you have to do your household yourself as well. So
Right.
for this year, I said that we will reduce our own carbon footprint with 50%, and next year with 100%. So next year we want to be on net zero, and we are also documenting that so everyone can
Hmm.
follow our
Very good.
change. I'm writing about that on LinkedIn and on Medium,
Hmm.
because we
Hmm.
also want to be like an inspiration for other tech companies.
For
I really
others.
feel that tech companies are in a good position, usually
Hmm.
quite wealthy companies, quite easy
Hmm.
to change. I mean, we do not have big machines, right?
Hmm. True.
So we can make a change here. And I
True.
think we should just take our responsibility and make this migration ourselves, and show the world how it can be done. Because otherwise,
Hmm.
I guess we will really have a huge problem in a couple of years that will probably impact our children a lot.
Right. True. Very well said. And I liked your re-emphasizing and realigning with the current what is required even for next generations. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for taking such steps even in very early days where you're not like a big corporation which have a lot of budgets and all that and they want to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much, Leo, for joining the Open Tech Talks and sharing your wonderful tips and insights, basically, because you work with so many founders and startups
Yeah.
where you had opportunity. One is participating and then nurturing those companies, and that knowledge you shared with us today. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
It was a real pleasure to be here, Kashif. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me.
If someone wants to reach out to you, what is the way, any medium you
Just
want to
find me
share?
on LinkedIn. Just find me on
Okay.
LinkedIn. My full name is
Mhm.
Leopold van Oosten, or write me at
Thanks for listening to the OTech Talks
leopold@amsterdamstandard.com.
podcast and be part of Tech Talks
Sure.
at otechtalks.tv. It's
Thank
a
you
turf
so
to share
much. Thank you,
ideas,
Leo, for
insights,
sharing.
and